Hi, everybody. It's Mark Chen here with The Insider, Rubin Team's weekly blog about all things real estate. And today, it's just me. Our fearless leader is out doing other things. And today we're going to be talking about cars. And the question is, why is that? So the car market, specifically the loans for car markets, very, very big market, right? So the market for residential mortgages is about $10 trillion. And the market for cars, car loans, is about $1.5 trillion. So, you know, it's a smaller market for sure, but it is a considerable pool of cash. And recently in The Insider, we've been discussing things that could potentially go wrong with the financial system. And my argument has been for a while that if something cracks in the financial system, it's unlikely to be driven by mortgages this time. And the reason for that is, well, we've got a lot of equity in the market. So people that have bought homes are unlikely to be underwater really quickly, unlike what happened in 06, 07, and 08. And secondly, the credit box is very tight for mortgages still. So people do not have the ability to borrow money when they can't afford it. That's not true in the car market, however. And so you have some of the very same things that happened in 07 and 08 happening in the car market. Let's take a look. So this is a graph of prices of used cars going back to 1995. And what you see is between 1995 and about the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, you see a relatively, I mean, it's increasing, but it's relatively flat, right? And then all of a sudden you see this increase in this index go from like 125 to looks like about 240 over the course of a year. And that was driven by supply chain issues, as we'll see in a second. But new cars were very hard to come by. And so people that needed cars piled into the used car market, and you saw those prices just absolutely explode. And you'll see at the right side of this graph how fast they're coming back down as well. So why is that? This chart's a little hard to read, but I will explain what's going on here. This is a chart. The gray line that you see peaking in the middle there is the number of container ships sitting in the harbor outside of LA, which is one of our major ports. And all the way down on the left, at the very left-hand side, you'll see that in 2019, it was normal to have one or two ships, 0 or 1 or 2 ships sitting there waiting to dock. And at the peak of this problem in January of 2022, you saw 109 container ships. These things are massive, you guys, massive. And so when the container ships are just sitting in the harbor, guess what? Parts aren't being delivered, goods aren't being delivered. The supply chain gets really choked up all the way up and down. And so new cars were not being either delivered or made. And this is a picture that shows you exactly why it was that the used car market was so hot. Here's another picture of the same data. This is just not specific to container ships outside LA. This is New York Fed's index of supply pressures. I have to explain this a little bit because this is measured in standard deviations. So a standard deviation of 1 is an increase of 67% in supply pressure. 2 standard deviations is 95%. 3 standard deviations is 99%, and 4 standard deviations is 99.9%. So that gives you an idea of how bad these pressures were. And but you can see on the right side of the graph, just starting in 2022, how it's starting to normalize now. So what's going to happen is when supply pressures come off, the weird pricing that you've seen in the market, particularly in the context of what we're talking about today, used cars, is going to abate. And that's why you saw back here this pricing drop. And I say, uh-oh, because a lot of people took out loans to buy these cars when prices are crashing. So now let's take a look at how this market is funded, okay? Right now, if you are considered deep subprime, that's like below, I don't know what it is, below 520 or something like that in your FICO score, you can't really get a mortgage, right? The bank is not going to lend you $500,000 to buy a house, but they will rush to lend you money to buy a car. And you can see the increase in the sort of debt so the bottom line here is deep subprime, right? The next line up is subprime. You can see that's the vast majority of the market. So that's the preponderance of the market is subprime and deep subprime. And these loans are getting repackaged and sold to investors. By the way, does that sound like the mortgage crisis where those toxic loans were being packaged into bonds and sold off and they became toxic, and that was really what crashed the financial system? Yeah, so the same thing is happening in cars right now. And guess what? We have a very scary thing about to happen, right? So prices are dropping in cars, not just used cars, but not just used cars, but new cars as well, right? As the supply comes back on. Number two, you've got an explosion in the prime and deep subprime market for these cars. And again, this market is $1.5 trillion in size, right? These bonds are being packaged and sold off. And by the way, let's just be clear about what these people are paying in their interest rates, right? It's between 9 and 20% per annum. And so it's like, these are hard loans to pay off, you guys. I mean, it's like having a credit card, right? And but these are not small loans. So, the average loan, as you can see, in deep subprime right now is about $23,000. So imagine having a credit card at 20% for 23 grand. Try to pay that off, right? It's tricky. And then have the value of your car start to go down, and then have a recession hit and you lose your job. Now, people really try to pay off their car loans, right? They try not to have their cars repoed, because without a car, you can't make it to work. You can't get your kids to school. So it's really important. As they say, you can sleep in your car, but you cannot drive your house to work. So it's almost like the payment of the car is the last thing to get late. But still, there's going to be pressures there. And already you're seeing delinquencies and repos starting to happen in the car market. It's worse this year than it was the year before. It was worse last year than it was before that. And the recession really hasn't even taken hold yet. So you guys, this is a topic we want to be keeping an eye on, because we are thinking that this could be an area that could trigger some sort of issue in the financial markets. And with that, I just want to say thank you for joining us on The Insider and reading this blog. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.